Man, I just called in a divine court hearing and a divine transfer of all melanin to be extracted from this so-called first black business, Carter's in Chinatown in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I smell bullshit. I smell bullshit. Since when did the Chinaman ever like a black? Last time I checked, a black person was property. When did the Chinaman ever like us? Last time I checked, they were feeding us. Can we get all the heart clogging, artery clogging, fried, greasy food, rat, cat, dog? I don't know what the fuck that shit be in them Chinese stores in every hood. Who set y'all up in every hood to poison my nation, Chinaman? So what is this about? What is this about? You letting you so-called letting? Because let's get this straight. According to universal law, according to divine law, according to the great God, universal Allah, this is the indigenous people land. This is a new age. Restore back to divine order. The ancestors are rising. I'm talking about the divine indigenous ancestors are rising back to their divine consciousness. And they cannot do that with greasy fried food. And I don't care if I eat it or not. I ask the great God to put you all out of business on my ancestors' land, period. And that's one of my wishes. I don't wish for fiat money. That's one of my wishes. To put all the other nations out of business on my ancestors' land. Because you're not doing anything for my nation except for poisoning us. You ain't doing shit. And can we get some DNA samples on every Chinese store in the hood to find out if this is actual real chicken? Because last time I checked, you motherfuckers eat dogs. So I'm calling in the divine court hearing. Anyone sacrificing or eating dogs, you are subject to the wrath of Allah, period. Your whole nation, your whole bloodline, your whole lineage. Oh, so now during the age of Aquarius, when the melanated are given the opportunity, because listen, this is according to the great God, universal Allah. Slavery has officially ended for my nation. Slavery has officially ended. And you know how we served our time in slavery? Through suffering and poverty and the torment from your nation and the other nations set against us. And you know that is biblical. Can we get the history? Why were the melanated? Stop calling my nation black. Listen, this is in the name of the great universal God Allah. If I hear anyone calling my nation black, you are subject to the wrath of Allah. Don't play with us. Don't play with us. You know who this is. You know who the Asiatics are. First of all, glory, honor, and praise to the great God, universal Allah, Father of the universe. By the guiding of his Father, God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his Father, God Allah. Because listen, a black cannot have a nationality, and everyone is entitled by universal law to a nationality. So stop referring to my nation as black. Because this is the time of divine reversal. This is the age of divine reversal and divine restoration. Back to the truth. And that is not our truth as a nation. And I'm going to show you. Since you act like you don't know. All these news stations, all this social media outlets, everyone involved in perpetuating this curse, this mark, this label, black, is first of all, you're under divine judgment. You're subject to the wrath of Allah. And you're under a divine reversal. So what you call us as a nation, that will be bestowed upon your nation by the great God, universal Allah. Bismillah. Who made you? Allah. Who is Allah? Allah is the Father of the universe. Again, I am reading from The Great Meeting is On. Quran, Islam. I, self, law, am master. That means I, higher self, master lower self. Master the beast, the carnal self, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. Islam. This is The Great Meeting is On. Quran questions for Moorish children. Noble Drew Ali, our prophet and founder. The prophet that came to let you blacks know that you are not black. First of all right, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. All right, let's look at the truth, because this truth is being put on a record. So anyone times infinity until infinity violating this is a divine executive order from the great God, universal Allah. And flesh got nothing to do with this. This is a divine executive order from the great God, universal Allah. So I am putting this on the record for the all. I don't care who it reaches. I'm publishing this. I'm putting this on the record in a public platform. So whomever decides to continue to perpetuate and perpetuate this lie that my nation is black in any form or fashion, unless it is because we know how those that have stake in us being black, we know how if we start using these terms, melanated and gods and goddesses, and if we start using these terms, we know we getting shadow banned. So unless, obviously, because the great God, universal Allah, judges from the book of life, every thought, word, and deed. So unless you're using that term to draw the nation back to the truth of who they are, then you're guilty. You are officially a universal criminal. You shall be tried in the divine courts of the great God, universal Allah. That's it. And this does cover, yes, absolutely, this does cover past, present, future timelines. This does include divine transfers to the divinely intended, because we know, listen, if it was a time that I thought I was black, right? There was a time, because I was born into sin. There was a time I thought I was African American. There was a time that I thought it was a Negro. There was a time that I thought it was a Negro spiritual. I was ignorant. And that's what the great God said. That's why my people perish, for their lack of knowledge. How can you be black? I've never really seen no black person, to be honest. I never seen no white person, to be honest. How could you be black or white? Only by a title or a label referring to your status. Your legal status as a human being. That's all it denotes to. A derogatory status or a godlike status. One or the other. And you see how each is treated. You see how so-called whites are treated. You see how so-called blacks have been treated. So this is officially on the record for the all and all in time and space until infinity. Violating this divine executive order, you are guilty, and that is punishable to the maximum extent of universal law. So yes, get ready for that new life sentence. You and your whole bloodline, you and your whole lineage. And this goes out multi-dimensionally. This does not just merely affect your bloodline, lineage, and ancestors and living in this dimension. No. Because there is a divine reversal. There is a divine transfer from my nation to yours. For you are perpetuating this curse on my nation. That the European cursed my nation with. Number 85. Name some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of Northwest by the European nations in 1774. Negro, black, colored, African American, and Ethiopian. Negro. Number 86. Negro. A name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contained black water. Number 87. What is meant by the word black? Black, according to science, means death. Whoever calls anybody from my nation dead, listen, and this is, listen, once you hear the truth, so-called blacks, once you hear the truth of the great God, universal Allah, and reject it, you hereby separate yourself from the great God, universal Allah. That is called death. Because this is what happens. I'll tell you how it happens. What does the word colored mean? Colored means anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. How could a human that has a hue, H-U-E, that has a pigmentation called melanin, the same melanin that Elon Musk uses to line his rocket ships, how could they be colored, painted, stained, or varnished or dyed? How is that possible? When a human has a hue, H-U-E, a pigmentation in the pores, in the skin, in the dermis, that is called melanin, which is used to line rocket ships to for rocket ships to even catapult into so-called space. So how can we be colored folk? How is that possible when we have a hue, a deep hue, ranging from pale to dark, to deep dark melanin? The 13 tribes of Israel. Judah, I assume, probably is the darkest, the deepest, darkest. I could be wrong. I don't even necessarily study, but I do hear what the great God wants his closest children to know. Why are we the great God's closest children? Well, whomever has the highest concentration of melanin, because melanin is life force energy. That is the great God, universal Allah, is melanin, universal life force energy. What does the word Ethiopian mean? Ethiopian means something divided. Can a man be a Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian? No. And everyone who says so is a liar, is a universal criminal. In the name of the great God, universal Allah, Bismillah. You are a universal criminal. It gets recorded. Past, present, future timeline. Why? 91. Why? Because man is made in the image and after the likeness of God Allah. Great God Allah. Like, you're made in the image and likeness. What does that mean? I'm made in the image and likeness of the great God, universal Allah. That means you're made of melanin, life force energy. That is creation energy. That's what NASA needs. Elon needs melanin. NASA needs melanin, life force energy for their space missions. Can we find out? Because the great God, universal Allah, brought something to my attention about they don't have to disclose legally. They don't have to disclose where they are harvesting this melanin from. Can we verify that and get those facts? And if a human can't do it, the divine courts, I'm talking to the angels of the great God, universal Allah, that record the book of life, every thought, word, and deed of every mankind. That's who I'm talking to. Because, listen, if you hear this, you can do that research yourself. So can we pull that up in this divine court hearing? Where are they getting this melanin from that they are lining rocket ships with to launch into space? Why are they not required to disclose where they are getting the melanin? Is that true? Divine court hearing and divine transfer. We want our melanin back. Bismillah. 93. Oh, 92. For all you all you people that are religious or spiritual, that just believe in God. It's only one great God, but it's many gods. Because even Yahweh Shai said in the basic instructions before leaving earth, the most basic religious manuscript on the great God, universal disclosure given to us by Rome, and even Yahweh Shai even said, ye are all gods. 92. What title does Satan give himself? God. Satan calls himself a god. 93. Will you define the word white? White means purity. Purity means God. And God means the ruler of the land. Oh, so now we're decoding that curse, what that curse was for. Right? So the so-called white took the label, the vibration white, right? So that they can usurp their dominion, the dominion that they usurped it on the indigenous land as ruler over the indigenous people, ruler over the indigenous land. That was the spell. That was the spell cast by the European. All right, we have to, because you got to understand, Satan is a geneticist, a scientist. And we taught that bitch. That's Satan. So Satan merged with the European vessel and gave them that knowledge. Call them black, you call yourselves white, and I'll arrange the rest. And look at where we're in 2026. A proud and handsome race. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, that has been intentionally destroyed to all types of vileness and abominable filth. Well, now is the redeeming and the reconciliation, if you should choose. Because look, this is it, man. I don't vouch for you if you don't vouch for the great God. Because after you hear these words, after the great God enlightens you to your true heritage, your true divinity, and you forsake these words, you get judged with the other nations. And it is that. I could really care less. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, I give you these teachings to save yourself, to save yourselves. So after you hear these words and you continue to be labeled as a property, as what is it, 3/4 human, cattle, a property can be legally. There's something called physical legal contracts, and every physical legal contract has a spiritual. It's a spiritual contract. So the oppressor that is in to just harvest your melanin, your life force energy, your soul, wrapping up these end times. We're at the end of an age. We left the age of Pisces, the end of an age. We are in a new age, the age of Aquarius. This is what the basic instructions before leaving Earth refers to, the end of the world. World in Hebrew translate as eon. E-O-N, era of time. An eon, an era of time. That is what the Bible refers to as end of the world. It just meant it's the end of an age. How would anyone, except for the great God, universal Allah, be able to destroy a planet to end a world? We've seen, science have seen civilizations come and go, reset, begin, reset, begin, reset, and begin. So again, end of the world. And again, I'm not a teacher. I'm just here to enlighten, redeem, reconcile, judge, and condemn the wicked towards my nation. Period. Because your erroneous, violent speech calling us dead towards my nation is hurting us. Every time that label is perpetuated in a derogatory manner, it is hurting us. And the great God, universal Allah, says you gotta pay. You gotta pay today. Number 94. To whom do we refer? Whom do we refer at times as being the great God? That is Allah. And is a devil made in the image and likeness of Allah? No. He is a shadow. The shadow of our lower selves and will pass away. Oh, all right. I'm not going to get into any more. That was it. That was it. I'm putting on the record I don't care if you refer to yourself as black, if you are perpetuating the erroneous, violent label, curse, black, so you're subject to the wrath of Allah. It is written. It is being recorded. Where is it being recorded? Let me show you. Hold on. Before I get on to that, this is important because we are in a new age. You're not getting away with this same bullshit anymore. Other nations, you know how you were set against the 12, 13, like I said. Hey, correct me if I'm wrong. Bismillah. I say 12, 13. I don't know. I feel like there's another tribe of Israel forming with a new DNA. That maybe that's why I'm feeling that impression. I don't know. But the minimum, the 12 tribes of Israel. Other nations, you know, all of you are set against us. By design. Why is every other nation in business? Y'all got all y'all towns on my ancestors' land. Y'all got all y'all business on my ancestors' land. Why? My nation is stuck in a concrete jungle. Why? Because all of the nations were set against us. It was by design, but just admit it. Admit it and allow us the chance to be restored back to our divinity. This is the time. I'm going to show you why. Hold on. We measure time by cycle ages. We ended a cycle age, guys. We ended a cycle age. Bismillah. What cycle age did we end? The cycle age we ended was the age of Pisces. That's what the Bible refers to as the end of the world. End of an eon. End of an era of time. End of a cycle. We ended a cycle age. We went from a negative polarity consciousness operating on the earth to now we're right now, because spirit realm, energy realm, that is light speed, that is instant manifestation. When the sins of the world reach my Father in heaven, yes, my Father lamented and ordered divine order on earth. Divine order on earth. That is officially when Satan received his eviction notice off of the earth. Get your ass and get your tenants. Get your slum tenants, your slum property, your slum creations. Everything got to go. There is a new earth. The master architect, master engineer, great God, universal Allah. It's like great God, universal Allah is like literally how I see it. You know, literally how I see it is like, you know, like the little towns before they actually start building, and then they have like the little prototype like towns and things like that. Like, I feel like the great God is just, you know, putting things here, putting things there, rearranging and everything, and, you know, all right. And what does when you're doing a professional construction job, right, you're building from scratch. So this whole world, we're seeing the physical world actually shift. It has to shift in consciousness first, and when it shifts in consciousness, we see the law of cause and effect at play. We see the physical shift. Anything in this that happens in the spiritual realm, it has to manifest in the physical realm. It just, the vibrations, the molecules, everything, it just moves slower in this plane of manifest. I can show that too through great God. But an age has passed, the gate unto another. Excuse me, let me start 12. We measure time by cycle ages, and the gate to every age we deem a milestone in the journey of the race. An age had passed. Number 13, an age had passed. And this is chapter 2, education of Mary and Elizabeth in Zoan, Egypt. Not Elizabeth Ho. This is from the great God, universal Allah. She is set up to deceive the very elect. This being is just how it describes in the basic instructions before leaving earth, those that crept in unawares. That is a hoe. That is a hoe. And listen, this is the position of the female vessel that was in her power and used her sexuality to build her empire. There was a time where female vessels were in rulership. That's referred to as the matriarchy. Now that's called being a whore or a whoredom or a hoe, right? So I'm not knocking that. But don't lie to my very elect. Hoe? You a hoe. Eliza hoe? You ain't Elizabeth. From Mary and baby Yahushai, you a hoe. Eliza hoe. That is your universal disclosure because you work for the 1%. Delete. You couldn't make it in the mainstream when you were a video vixen, when you were shaking your ass in rap videos. You couldn't make it in that world for whatever reason. I just don't think I just think you didn't have the soul, because this is just my belief. This is just my belief that this is some type of, this being is either undergoing consciousness transfers from a melanated, she's either getting it from the DNA, from the sperm of so-called black males, because that's not, last time I checked, that's not what a Chinaman sounds like. This ninja sounds like a whole black man and looks like a lady boy. I don't know what this is. And this is how the 1% from they had dominion in the old world. The 1% that work for the negative, nefarious agenda, extraterrestrials, they give them the thoughts, the ideas, they give them the influential power, because us from the positive polarity, we interact, we get chosen by the positive beings, multidimensional, right from great God. I'm chosen by great God, but I have what people would call extraterrestrials. These are beings from other worlds. They do my upgrades, my frequency upgrades. They do install etheric technologies in my vessel to transmute negative energy for I nation. I incarnated as a so-called black, so I am here for my nation. That's it. And no one really has the negativity of my nation, the poverty and torment DNA from my nation, even though this is in the Holy Quran, Circle 7, all nations have been enslaved due to disobedience to the great God, universal Allah. So we're not looking at this as a victim consciousness. We paid our dues as a nation. We paid our dues as a nation. Slavery is officially over, according to the great God, universal Allah. How many years were our ancestors in slavery? And we have to face those consequences today as a nation, right? So now we have the opportunity, if we do not come out of it physically, you still have the opportunity to come out of it through your consciousness. And it's your only consciousness traveling in the human body. So that's the only freedom you have that you need. That's why the great God speaks about in the scripts about winning the crown of life through persecution and a physical death. You can still win the crown of life.